Hello and welcome to the next tutorial for the ultimate turn-based battle system for Unity. In this video, we are going to take a look at the Create Item tab inside the custom Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System window. The Create Item tab is used to create item definitions for your battle system. Items can be used for many different things. They can deal damage, they can heal HP, they can restore MP, they can add status effects, they can remove status effects, and they can also spawn effect prefabs and damage number pop-ups during battle. So this tab is where you define what an item actually does when it is used. For example, you could create a potion that restores HP. You could create a mana herb that restores MP. You could create a bomb that deals damage to an enemy. You could create an antidote that removes poison. Or you could create a special battle item that damages enemies and applies a status effect at the same time. For this tutorial, we will stay on the Create Item tab. The Create Item tab creates an item data asset. This item data asset stores the item icon, item name, item description, target mode, damage settings, healing settings, MP healing settings, status effect settings, effect prefab, and damage number prefab. This asset can then be used by the inventory and battle systems. Now let's go through the tab from top to bottom. At the top of the tab you can find the Load Item button and the Clear button. The Load Item button allows you to load an existing item data asset back into the editor. This is useful when you want to edit an item you already created. When an item is loaded, the editor restores the item icon, name, description, target mode, damage settings, healing settings, MP healing settings, status effects, effect prefab, and damage number prefab. The Clear button resets the tab back to an empty item setup. This is useful when you want to start creating a new item from scratch. Next, we have the General section. Here you can assign the item icon. The item icon is the sprite that visually represents the item in the UI. For example, a potion could use a small bottle icon, a bomb could use an explosive icon, an antidote could use a medicine icon, a sword upgrade material could use an ore or crystal icon. After assigning an item icon, the editor displays a preview of it directly inside the tab. This makes it easier to check if the correct sprite has been selected. Below the icon you can enter the item name. The item name is the readable name of the item. For example, potion, high potion, mana herb, antidote, firebomb, or revival stone. Try to use clear item names because these names will appear in menus, item lists, inventories, and battle UI elements. Below the item name, you can enter the item description. The item description explains what the item does. For example, restores 50 hit points to one ally, removes poison from one ally, deals fire damage to one enemy, restores 30% MP to one ally. A clear description is useful because it helps the player understand the item before using it. Next, we have the item target setting. The item target defines who or what the item can be used on. This uses the same kind of target setup as skills. For example, an item could target a single enemy, all enemies, a single ally, all allies, the user, or another target mode supported by your project. This is important because the item effect should match the target. A healing item usually targets an ally. A damage item usually targets an enemy. An item that removes a negative status effect usually targets an ally. A bomb or offensive battle item usually targets one or more enemies. Choosing the correct target mode is one of the most important setup steps for an item. Now let's talk about the effects section. This section defines the main effect of the item. There are three main effect toggles: deal damage, healing HP, healing MP. These main effect types are designed so that damage and healing are mutually exclusive in the editor. This means that if deal damage is enabled, the HP healing and MP healing toggles are disabled. And if HP healing or MP healing is enabled, deal damage is disabled. This helps prevent confusing setups where an item is both a damage item and a healing item at the same time. However, status effects can still be added separately. So an item can still, for example, deal damage and apply a status effect, or heal HP and remove a status effect. First, let's look at deal damage. If deal damage is enabled, the item becomes an offensive item. When deal damage is active, you can choose a damage affinity. The damage affinity comes from the Global Affinities tab. For example, the item could deal physical damage, fire damage, ice damage, electric damage, or any custom affinity you created. This affinity is important because the target's affinity reaction can affect the result. For example, if an item deals fire damage and the enemy is weak to fire, the item can deal increased damage. If the enemy resists fire, the damage can be reduced. If the enemy absorbs fire, the item can heal the enemy instead, so damage items can use the same affinity system as skills. Below the damage affinity, you can set the damage strength. The damage strength defines how strong the item's damage effect is. For example, a small bomb might have a low damage strength. A powerful firebomb might have a much higher damage strength. This value is stored in the item data asset and used when the item is executed during battle. Next, let's look at healing HP. If healing HP is enabled, the item restores HP. When HP healing is active, you can choose the HP healing amount type. There are two main types: specific amount, %. Specific amount means the item restores a fixed amount of HP. For example, a potion could restore 50 HP. A high potion could restore 250 HP. % means the item restores a percentage of the target's maximum HP. For example, an item could restore 25% of the target's max HP. If % is selected, the value is clamped between 0 and 100. This prevents invalid percentage values. Percent-based healing is useful for items that should stay useful throughout the whole game. A fixed 50 HP potion is strong in the early game but weaker later. A 30% healing item stays useful even when characters have much higher max HP. Next, let's look at healing MP. If healing MP is enabled, the item restores MP. The setup works very similar to HP healing. You can choose the MP healing amount type. Again, you can use specific amount or %. Specific amount restores a fixed amount of MP. For example, a mana herb could restore 20 MP. A magic elixir could restore 100 MP. % restores a percentage of the target's maximum MP. For example, an item could restore 50% of the target's max MP. If % is selected, the value is clamped between 0 and 100. This is useful for MP recovery items that should scale with the target's max MP. Now let's talk about status effects. The Create Item tab has two separate status effect sections. Add status effect. Remove status effect. The Add status effect option allows the item to apply one or more status effects to the target. To use it, enable Add status effect. Then click the Add status effect button. This creates a new status effect slot. In that slot, you can assign a status effect data asset. You can add multiple status effects if needed. For example, a poison bomb could deal damage and also add poison. A rage potion could heal the user and add a strength up status effect. A cursed item could damage an enemy and add defense down. If you no longer need a status effect entry, click the Remove button next to that entry. The Remove status effect option works in the opposite way. It allows the item to remove one or more status effects from the target. To use it, enable Remove status effect. Then click the Add status effect button in that section. This creates a status effect slot for effects that should be removed. For example, an antidote could remove poison, a burn cure could remove burn, a cleanse item could remove multiple negative effects, a full recovery item could remove several status effects and also restore HP. If you no longer need one of the remove entries, click the Remove button next to it. When saving the item, the editor checks these status effect settings. Next, we have the Effect Prefab section. Here you can assign a visual effect prefab. The effect prefab can be spawned when the item is used. For example, a healing item could spawn a small glow effect. A bomb could spawn an explosion effect. An antidote could spawn a sparkle or cleanse effect. This makes item usage feel more visual and readable during battle. Next, we have the damage number pop-up section. Here you can assign a damage number prefab. Despite the name, this can also be useful for healing numbers or other pop-ups, depending on how your project uses the prefab. For example, when a potion restores HP, the system can show a green healing number. When a bomb deals damage, it can show a red damage number. This helps the player understand what happened after the item was used. Now let's talk about saving the item. At the bottom of the tab, you can click Save Item. When you save the item, the editor creates an item data asset. The asset is saved into the items database folder. The saved item data asset contains the item icon, item name, item description, target mode, effect settings, status effect lists, effect prefab, and damage number prefab. The default asset name uses the prefix ITM followed by the item name. For example, if the item is called Potion, the asset name can be ITM_Potion. This makes it easier to keep item assets organized. Now let's talk about how items are used by the rest of the battle system. The Create Item tab only creates the item data asset. To actually make the item available to the player, it needs to be part of the inventory setup. The inventory manager stores the available items. The battle UI can then display usable items during battle. When the player selects an item, the battle system reads the item data asset and applies the configured effect to the selected target. If the item deals damage, it uses the damage settings and affinity. If it heals HP, it restores HP based on the selected healing type. If it heals MP, it restores MP based on the selected healing type. If it adds status effects, those effects are applied to the target. If it removes status effects, those effects are removed from the target. If effect or pop-up prefabs are assigned, they can be used for visual feedback. In the next tutorials, we will continue with the other tabs of the Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System window and look at how they work together to create complete turn-based RPG battles. Thank you for watching. If this video helped you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials and updates about the Ultimate Turn-Based Battle System.